Hi everybody and welcome to today's Faith Moments. This is the second in a series of 3 where I'm looking at coming home to who we really are and where we really are in God's grace, looking at the story of the Prodigal Son and sharing a little bit of my own story with you. So last Monday, if you were following it, I looked at coming home and the robe of righteousness that God gives his children to wear. I'd been, without realizing it, self-righteous, trying to be in relationship with God in my own strength, in my own prayer, in my own energy. And God had to teach me that I could only come into his presence wearing the robe of righteousness that Jesus gives through the cross, through the blood. If you missed it, maybe just catch back to last Monday. But today, looking at coming home and the ring, let's just remember the story. The youngest son asks his father tells his father he wants half the money that will come to him one day at his father's death. He takes half his father's money and he goes a long way away. He gets into a mess. He ends up running out of money, running out of friends. The only thing he can do is feed pigs in a field, and he's hungry. One day he comes to his senses and he realizes again that in his father's house, at least the slaves, the servants have something to eat. And if he goes home and if he asks for forgiveness and if his father forgives him, maybe he'll be allowed to be a slave in the house. No longer a son, but a slave. The story picks up that while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. He ran to his son, threw his arms around him and kissed him. The son said to him, "Father, I've sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son." But the father said to his servants, "Quick, bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet." Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. And today I want to think about this ring that God gives to his sons and daughters. It's the ring that signifies that you are a son or a daughter in the house. It was a sign that you belonged, a sign of who you were, your status. It was a sign that you belonged to the Father, usually with an image on the front that would remind people who you are and what you were. And it's the sense of authority in there as well. The Father doesn't accept him back just as a slave. He puts the ring of sonship on his finger. Now, I suspect many of us, if not most of us, are living not fully as sons and daughters of God. There's a sense in which we may know we're forgiven, we may know that we are his son or his daughter, but maybe we're not confident in that relationship, not confident of the right that it gives us in his presence, not confident of his righteousness and his relationship that he's paid for at the cross for us. So again, I want to just tell you a bit about a story that helped me come to a little bit further on my journey. I don't think I haven't fully understood it yet. One day in heaven, I'll know what it means to be his daughter. I'm just learning in this world, but I'm learning day by day. So I told you last Monday that there was a time when myself and a friend, we believed God had asked us to go on a training course in Nigeria. We'd been relating with this group, going backwards and forwards 2 or 3 times a year for about 3 years. And this was the time when we were going to start the training course for church leaders. And we were really excited. We knew God had asked us to go. We were really excited. And the course started on a certain date in Nigeria. And we always had problems with visas with Nigeria and UK. There was something political going on. And that year, above all years, we struggled. And the visa people were messing around with us. We couldn't get answers. And the time for the flight got nearer and nearer. And this struggle went on for 3 or 4 weeks. It was very, very intense. And towards the time of the flight, we had the timetables ready so that we knew that if the visa was issued in London, we could get the train to London, then get the visa, travel across to the airport, catch the flight, get to Nigeria. We had all the journeys in our heads, the timings of it. And it got closer and closer and closer to the time of the journey. And then it got to the day the visa had to come, and it didn't arrive. And I was there in Manchester with my bags packed, desperate to go on this course because I believe it was what God had asked for, crying out to God. And believe me, I'd repented of anything I could think of repenting of, anything at all that I could think of repenting of. had repented of. We got to Nigeria, as I told him last Monday, and got there and began the course. And for the first few nights, I said to my friend John, I said, I keep dreaming about the visa. And he said, why? He said, because we're here. I said, I know, but I keep dreaming of it. I think because it had been so intense for the last 3 or 4 weeks, very, very intense. Every night there was a bit of the visa came into my dreams, and I was thinking, I'm a bit annoyed about this because I want to concentrate on the course and concentrate on what I'm doing here. So there we were in Nigeria, and I'm still dreaming about the visa. And then one night I had a very, very, very strong dream, and I dreamt I was in my church in Manchester, and I knew that I had to leave what I was doing by a certain time to get to the embassy, to get the visa, to get to the airport, to get to Nigeria, to start the course. And in the dream, lots of things kept happening. There were interruptions. People needed something. Something happened. And then it got more and more and more intense. And then right at the end of the dream, my friend was meant to be pick me up to take me to the train station to get to London. You get the picture. And suddenly his car broke down. And I went, oh. And in my dream, I just shouted out at God, I can't do it. I can't get there now. I can't get to Nigeria. And then suddenly, it was like the whole room shook violently, and the bed I was on just shook. And I woke up being shaken by God. And I heard the voice of God say to me, stop trying to get where you already are. Stop trying to get where you already are. He literally shook the room, shook the bed, and there I was in Nigeria, shaken awake. And I looked up and I thought, I'm in Nigeria. And God said, stop trying to get where you already are. And of course, he wasn't speaking about stop trying to get to Nigeria because you're already there. He was speaking about stop trying to get where you already are in your relationship with me. Stop trying to get where you already are. I believe for many of us, we work at our relationship with God. And I'm not saying prayer and reading the Bible, study, working with God, it's essential. But it comes from the starting point of knowing who we are and where we are. We don't work to earn approval. We already have it. We don't work at our relationship to become better, to become sons and daughters of God, because we already are. We don't work at our relationship. We already have it by grace. We live from the security of that relationship. And you know the difference just as well as I do of a young child who's confident of his father's love, his mother's love. He can do so much more. She can do so much more because she's coming from a place of security, knowing who she is, knowing that she's loved, knowing it's okay, whatever happens. Whereas a child that's not confident, not sure, is always trying to earn approval. God said to me, stop trying to get where you already are. He literally shook the bed and the whole room in Nigeria. And when I woke up, stop trying to get where you already are. So where are we? Galatians says that when the fullness of time had come, God sent forth his son, born of a woman, born under the law, to redeem those who were under the law, that we might receive the adoption as sons. And because you are sons, God has sent forth the Spirit of his Son into your heart, crying out, Abba, Father. And of course, it's sons and daughters here. Because you are sons and daughters of God, God has sent forth the Spirit of his Son into your hearts, crying, Abba, Father. He doesn't just give you the name. He doesn't just say, you're my son, you're my daughter. He gives you the DNA, the spiritual DNA within you of a son, of a daughter of God. He puts his Spirit within you. God has sent forth the Spirit of his Son into your hearts, crying out, Abba, Father. Listen to his Spirit within you. Learn to hear from deep within who he's made you, where you already are, a son or a daughter of the living God. Therefore, you're no longer a slave, but a son. And if a son, then an heir of God through Christ. That's Galatians. You're no longer a slave, but a son. And if a son, then an heir of God through Christ. God shook that bed in Nigeria. I think he actually allowed us to miss that flight and then the journey and then shaking the bed, because he wanted to try to teach me that I'm a daughter of God, not trying to get somewhere in relationship with him, but already by grace there, and then learning to live from that place. And if you listen to last Monday's Faith Moment, I spoke about Esther, who learned to wear the robe of righteousness, and then she could enter into the courts of the king and believe that God would answer her prayer. And as she went in, she won the freedom of a people, a whole people. As sons and as daughters, as heirs of God, we begin to take our place, not only in relationship with him, but in the work that he's called us to, in his work. Sons and daughters and heirs through Christ. Stop trying to be who you already are. Stop trying to get where you already are. Learn to know what God has given you at the cross, who he's made you. Just going to take a few moments, just a quietness. Do you know who you are in Christ? Do you know where you are? If you don't, now's the time to find out. Give me a ring, give somebody else a ring, put some effort into it. But that's the only place to live and work from. Let's find out. Take a moment to pray. Father, we ask that you teach us, reveal to us what it means to be your sons and daughters, confident in relationship with you, walking in your promises, heirs of your kingdom today. Thank you. So I thank God that I missed that flight. I thank God that he shook the bed. I thank God that he woke me up. And I thank God that he's teaching me bit by bit, day by day, what it means to be his daughter. And I pray that he'll teach us all to be sons and daughters of God.